Today, I wanted to speak with you all about my own STEM story. I'm doing this for the Nuevo Foundation, and I wanted to share my experience. Now, my STEM story is a little bit different from most people. I'm a paralegal, and some people might be wondering, what is a paralegal? Well, a paralegal is to a lawyer what a nurse is to a doctor. So you're basically a legal assistant. And I never really envisioned that I would become a paralegal because I actually initially wanted to become a computer programmer or something like that. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Juan Santillan. I was born in East Los Angeles, California, raised in Santa Ana, California. I'm Mexican American, born here. My parents are from Mexico, and I have a lot of interests that are likely very much things that you all like, right? A huge soccer fan, a huge Simpson fan. Me and my siblings still quote it. I want to say it's the first 10 seasons. I know that that show has gone on for 30 years or so, which is way longer than all of you have been living, but we still like to quote it. Huge fan of the Lakers, very happy that they won this year. Hip hop fan, um, and video games. Now, one thing that I will mention is literature and reading was a really, really big influence for me and my siblings. I remember growing up, we didn't really have a lot, right? My parents came here from Mexico. They had to really work wherever they could. In fact, my mom is still a custodian. She actually cleans the elementary school that I went to when I was little. And so, one of the things that we would do for fun, every 2 weeks or so, we would go to the library. And at the library, we would get as many books as they would let us take, right? I think there was a limit of 10 books every 2 weeks. And then the librarian got to know us, and we would get like 20 books, which was great for us. And that really helped develop our imagination. Right now, it's really difficult to be stuck at home, and we don't have as much freedom to go and do things that we want to do. But I remember growing up, we didn't have money really to go out and do things on the weekends. So we were kind of stuck at home. And so we had to figure out ways to entertain ourselves. And because of that, I read all the Goosebump books. I read all the Choose Your Own Adventure books and a lot of other books that really got me interested in a lot of things. And my connection from The Simpsons to Edgar Allan Poe is, I don't know if you've all seen the very first Halloween special, but Lisa reads The Raven. And I remember seeing that, and it really kind of spoke to me. And so that sort of took me on my journey on really, really enjoying literature. And one of the things that that does is it also helps you communicate better, right? The more you read, the more you pick up, the more you learn, the better you can communicate. And communicating is such a big and important part of your own journey, right? So how did I get to Microsoft? I did not take a very traditional path at all. Um, I'll be honest with you all. I started working when I was very young. I'm the second oldest from my immediate family, but even in my extended family, I'm one of the oldest of my cousins, and so we had to help out however we could, and that required me to work on the weekends with my dad cleaning offices, and I learned a lot from that. I learned responsibility. I learned just the value of managing money and things like that. But ideally, you don't want to put you know someone in that situation, but I'm sure some of you are in that situation, right? And it's not easy, but it's just something that we had to do. It also gives you and shows you how hard work, how valuable it is, and that you should sort of focus on school. Like for me, working and getting up at 5 in the morning on Saturdays to go clean an office or to go, do landscaping or plumbing or whatever we were doing was not fun, and it wasn't well paid either. And so that really made me focus on my education as well. I went to Valley High School in Santa Ana, graduated in 2001, which is a long time ago. And then I attended DeVry University, which is a for-profit college. It's not a traditional sort of college. It was a little bit of a difficult experience because that school is set up more for professionals who already have a degree that are trying to get their bachelor's. And so me coming in there as a 17, 18-year-old, one of the very few Latinos in that school, in that class, it was challenging. And also the challenge of how do I pay for books? How do I help out my family, right? And I had to get a job. I worked full time. This store does not exist anymore, but I used to work for a Blockbuster Video. And that was my college job. And so I worked full time and went to school full time. And that also really forced me to manage my time really well, right? If you only have an hour to do something, you focus and you get it done. It's not easy, but you learn to time manage. And so those experiences were difficult, but at the same time, all of that really helped me into my next steps, right? And then I ended up graduating from DeVry University. I was looking for employment, and most tech companies require you to have some sort of experience, right? I had zero experience. I was lucky to be one of the few people in my high school that had a computer, even. Now, almost everyone has access to a computer, or most people have access to a computer, but before, literally, whatever was at the school was all you had. And so I was lucky enough that my parents invested in getting us a computer. Our very first computer, actually, we bought from our old church. It was a huge, very heavy computer. It was running on DOS. If whoever doesn't know DOS, it's all sort of text based. And I remember even the printer was huge. It was shocking, literally. If you were plugged in more than 30 minutes or so, it would overheat. And so it was a whole thing, right? But, again, I was lucky to even have that, right? And to have even teachers who kind of helped me out as well. And so, because of that, I sort of had a little bit of an advantage. But at the same time, when I graduated, I didn't have the experience of interning at a company or at somewhere that would help me to my new job or my career. And so I really struggled finding work. Like I mentioned, I had about 4 years experience working at retail, at Blockbuster Video, but that didn't apply for the job that I was looking for. I got my bachelor's in computer information systems, which is a very basic sort of high level computer degree. And, I was hoping to do different sort of things with it. I did learn that programming was just not my strength. That was something that I struggled with. And so I was looking for something a little bit different. But all the employers were basically wanting minimum 6 months experience on the job. And I just didn't have that, right? And so I had to kind of figure things out again. I was looking for a job that paid decent. I was helping out my family with rent and other things. And so I ended up finding a job with a bankruptcy trustee. What's a bankruptcy trustee? Well, I didn't know either. I actually found that job through a temp agency. And based on, because I have data entry skills, I have decent communication skills, I ended up getting that job. And so about a year into it, I was still looking for work, that was computer related, STEM related, but it was still a struggle. And what I ended up doing when I was working at the bankruptcy trustee's office, I was a case management clerk. And that gave me exposure to the court system, to lawyers, and then I learned what a paralegal was. And so I really liked it. I really liked the fact that um, law can be interpreted in different ways, how all that works. And so I ended up going back to school. I went to Santa Ana College, uh, which is a junior college in Santa Ana, and I got my associates in paralegal studies. It was a 2-year program. I would do that after, I would work in the morning, and then at night I would go to class. And after 2 years, I got my paralegal certification. And, I was ready to go. I was really excited. I was getting to learn a lot about it. And so life brought me to Seattle. I ended up coming up to Seattle in 2017, and sorry, 2012. And I got a job at a public defense agency. Another thing that I wasn't really super clear on what that was, but what I learned is the public defenders are lawyers that are appointed to cases where a person who was accused of a crime can't afford an attorney. And so they would assign us cases. And even there, I learned a lot, right? I remember being younger and thinking, well, if you follow all the rules, if you do what people tell you to do, and all that, then you're going to be okay. But the truth is, and some of you have maybe unfortunately already seen this, is sometimes as people of color, we get treated differently, right? We need to do things a little bit differently. And so navigating even like the criminal system or any other sort of system is difficult, especially if you add a language issue, right? I speak English fairly well, but not everyone has that, I would see how my parents would struggle communicating with people. I was translating for them since I was 8 or 9, and I would see how people would treat them. And so I really tried to kind of figure out how things worked so that I can kind of create solutions for myself. And so I was in public defense. I really, really liked working there because you start to see some of the injustices and you start to see where things need to change. And so that really motivated me to keep working there. And then an opportunity came up in 2017. Microsoft was hiring a paralegal that had criminal law experience and had a tech background. And so everything that was listed there were skills that I had picked up already, right? So it all sort of came together and I ended up at Microsoft. I never thought I would work in a corporation. My previous job was at King County, uh, a county job. Before that, I was working at a nonprofit. And before that, I was working at a private office. And so I never thought I'd end up going to a corporation. And so as I've been working at Microsoft, one of the things that I also did is, like I mentioned before, I love literature, I love books. I really do like to write. I've written some poetry. It's okay. And one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of figure out how people edit stories, how people publish stories. And so I ended up getting my certification at the University of Washington to be a copy editor. And a copy editor is basically, you work with someone who's written a book or some sort of work, and you work with them to fix it, to correct mistakes and things of that nature. And that actually has helped me at Microsoft because I've worked on projects where I can give that expertise, where I can give advice based on that experience. And so the reason I point all that out is you may think that you're learning a skill that might not be necessary, and in different ways it comes up and you can apply it at your job, right? So one of the things that I like to talk to students about is what they should focus on to succeed in general. I would love for all of you to have the opportunity to work at Microsoft or any other large corporation, but the truth is not everyone's going to have that opportunity. The best thing you can do is prepare yourself for when those opportunities come up. One of the things that's helped me a lot is communication skills. Sometimes we might have a hard time speaking up. We might have a hard time even asking questions or following up. And so I think it's really important to try to focus and improve those skills because that's really going to help you in the long run. And it's not easy, but it does take some time. And I would really encourage you to practice with friends, with family, with people who support you so that you can improve your communication skills. Like I said, too, reading comprehension, 100% is important. For me, because I work in the legal field, words matter. The definition of something really matters because there have been cases, not any cases that I've worked on, but I've read about cases where it's like a contract dispute, and literally because of a comma or a period or something, it changes the meaning of the entire contract, right? And so it's those little details that are important. And I think it's important to know what you're reading, and a lot of that might take some time. It might take you, you might need to reach out to someone that can better explain it to you. And all that requires you to problem solve, right? Like that is something that I've noticed a lot of people seem to not have is problem solving skills. And it's maybe, I think part of it is hesitation, right? Growing up, dealing with certain scenarios and situations, there was so really no option at times to not do something about it, right? And so I learned my problem solving skills essentially on the job. Immediately when things happen, I would just kind of have to figure something out, right? And so, again, all of these are not things that you can pick up immediately. These are things that you slowly have to build up. And what I want to tell you too is that, I know some people that are geniuses or like really, really smart people. And I'm sure you all know people like that too. The way I like to explain it is I have a really good friend, and he's the type of person that he just kind of gets things done, right? And I would kind of describe it as, let's say you're going to go hiking, right? And there's a really steep mountain. He's the type of person that wants to just climb straight up, even though it's hard and it's really physically demanding. He would rather do that and just get to the top right away. I like to kind of take my time. So I would rather slowly go up the mountain. I might not get there as quickly as he does, but I know I'm going to get there, you know? And so some of us have to do it that way. And that's what I want you all to know is don't get discouraged. You know, it might take some time, but you'll get where you need to get. Another thing that really helps is just being ready to learn at all times. Sometimes you might think, well, why do I need to learn this thing? And like I mentioned before, it's funny, you pick up things and skills and learn things in different places, and then it comes back and it helps you. Also, be ready for change, right? Right now, we're living through really odd times, and the people who are doing okay right now are people who have been able to change the way they work, the way they communicate, just change and adapt to the new situation, right? Um, and I know that change is difficult sometimes, you know. Sometimes we like things to stay the way they are, but the reality is that things change all the time, and the the more ready you are to accept changes and the more you can change with it, the better you are. Another thing is just be considerate, you know, be considerate of others, because you can always learn from different people. You know, you might think that you have nothing in common with someone else, but there really is always something that you can find and learn from someone else, you know, and also hold yourself accountable. You know, once you're an adult, and even some of you who, you know, are young adults, no one's going to tell you what to do at times. You know, no one's going to force you to do certain things. You just have to do it yourself. And if you don't do it and you don't hold yourself accountable, then, you know, it's going to be much harder for you to succeed. So really kind of try to build that self motivation to keep going. Um, and, you know, another thing that I did not mention is, you know, try to build a team that works with you. You know, try to find friends to lean on. My experience was, you know, I think by fifth grade, my parents couldn't help me with anything math related. You know, my dad went to school up to second grade. My mom went up to sixth grade in Mexico. And, you know, especially like English homework, they couldn't help me with, right? And so I found a couple friends that, you know, for example, like the friend I mentioned earlier, he's very, very good at math. He's a biostatistician now. He's a college professor, and that is what he's really good at. My strength was always in reading and writing and literature. So if there was a math sort of question, I talked to him. He'd help me. If he had a question on some sort of written assignment, then he'd come to me. And I think a lot of times we need to do that because our parents can't help us in some situations, right? Like they just didn't have the opportunity to go to school the way we do. And so just keep that into consideration, right? Again, you know, my STEM story is very, very unique. But one thing I want you all to do is just keep an open mind, keep learning, learn at your own pace, and don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, I think it's a lot of times we're afraid to make a mistake, we're afraid to misspeak, or we're afraid to seem foolish, and that holds us back. You know, I feel like people who succeed most in life fail more first, and then they succeed because, you know, I don't really think that there is true failure. You know, whenever something occurs and you make a mistake, you learn from it. Now, if you keep making the same mistake, then I guess that is somewhat of a failure, but I feel like every experience teaches you something. And so I really want you all to feel comfortable in reaching out to people or find that person who can help you, because some of us do have those skills. Some of us feel comfortable talking to people, reaching out to people, and not everyone does, you know? And so we all have strengths, we all have skills that we can bring to the table. And that is, I think, a really important thing to do and to share with others. And, you know, one of the reasons why I like to speak to, you know, people, young people, is to motivate them. You know, growing up, every school I was in, all my teachers were not like me. You know, my all my schools were 80% Latino, but the teachers were not Latino, and you know that's changing now. But I think we also need to find representation in other places, right? Like, for example, at Microsoft, one of the things that I really focus on is trying to find people in the community that can join the company because there's a lot of talent there that's not being looked at, right? Microsoft does have some collaboration with schools. I know that they have a big collaboration with a school in El Paso, Texas, and a few others. And we've found some great, great people through those programs. So also, I would motivate you to look for those sort of opportunities, because you never know where it's going to lead. So I was really happy to share my story with you all, and I hope you all got something positive out of this. And I really just want to encourage you all to just keep going. Si se puede. It's going to be hard, and there's going to be moments where you're all you have, but I'm very confident you're going to be fine. So with that, I hope you all have a great experience and take care.